One of the ways that I pass time during this lockdown is to go out and weed my garden. I go around looking for any weeds that might be taking over the flowers and stopping them growing. Well, in some ways that's a picture of how we should deal with the sin in our life. That we should root it out and pull it out of our life. Let's have a look at our reading today from Romans chapter 8, verses 12 and 13. Therefore, brothers and sisters, we have an obligation, but it is not to the flesh to live according to it. For if you live according to the flesh, you will die. But if by the Spirit you put to death the misdeeds of the body, you will live. When Jesus died on the cross, he took the penalty for my sin. He paid the price. He took the blame for the wrong things that I have done. But yet at the same time, the presence of sin is still there. I still mess up and I still fall. The penalty of sin is paid, but the presence of sin is still there. So how do I deal with it? How do I fight the battle with sin? Well, our verses give us two things that we can do. First one is that we should remember grace. Look at verse 12. Therefore, brothers and sisters, we have an obligation. Now when he's saying therefore, he's looking back to what Christ has done for us and his grace towards us. Christ has given to us his righteousness. He has paid our debt, and by faith we receive his obedient life. We are now counted as righteous before God. He gives us his righteousness. But not only that, he also gives us his resurrection life. We saw that yesterday, that one day we will be raised from the grave to be with God. So when I look back and remember God's grace, that I am righteous before God, and that I will be raised to be with God, it reminds me of God's amazing love and how I now want to please him. Not to earn God's favour, but to enjoy God's favour, to enjoy his blessing and the life that he has for me. So when I remember grace, I want to now please my Father in heaven. So we remember grace, but secondly, we also kill sin. That's what we're reminded in verse 13. By the Spirit you put to death the misdeeds of the body. When the Spirit comes into our life, he shines a light into our hearts and exposes and reveals the sin that is there. He shows us our sin so that we can deal with it, so that we can put it to death. We don't hide our sin, we can admit to it. We can confess it and run to our Father who longs to forgive us. And we don't excuse our sin either. We kill it off. That is, we reject anything that is going to cause us harm in terms of our relationship with God. We keep away from anything that's going to trip us up or cause us to fall. We take sin seriously. We uproot it before it begins to take root in our own life. Just as the weeds in my garden will destroy the flowers and stunt any growth, so we must take that same decisive, radical action and uproot and pluck out any sin in our life that will hinder any growth and enjoying time with God. Sin, well, it gives us pleasure for a little while, but it will end in death and separation from God. The Spirit, on the other hand, gives us life, an eternity with him forever and ever. So let's remember grace, and let's kill off the sin and enjoy the life that God has given to us.